Alright guys, been a while since I did a video. I'm going to do a series of videos over the next couple of weeks, uh, preparing for the 2020 fantasy football season. Hopefully we get a full season, hopefully everything's good, but I know drafts are going on right now, so I figured it was a pretty good time to put out a video. Today we're going to be looking at running backs. As far as strategy goes, when it comes to running backs, I'm a running back guy. I feel anyone who doesn't take running backs with their first three picks of a draft, you're just setting yourself up for failure. There's only 32 teams in the NFL. Most teams have one good back and then a backup or a third down back or something like that. But there's very few elite backs in the league. So I really think you can wait on quarterbacks, you can wait on wide receivers, you can wait on tight ends. There's value at the end of the draft in all of those positions. You need the elite running backs. You need them to come off the board early. So, diving into the rankings, 1, 2, and 3 are pretty much going to be the same. In most of your drafts, they're going to come in order that just really depends on what everyone thinks of them, but it's going to be Christian McCaffrey of the Panthers, it's going to be Saquon Barkley of the Giants, and it's going to be Dalvin Cook of the Vikings. Dalvin Cook's situation can get a little bit dicey. It just depends on his contract situation. We'll discuss that a little bit more later when I get into a couple of sleepers, when I get into handcuffs, because there's a guy you should definitely be targeting. In most rankings, you will see Ezekiel Elliott at number 4. Me personally, I have him at number 6. Just because with the coaching change to Mike McCarthy, McCarthy never liked running backs when he was in Green Bay. And I feel with Dallas's first-round draft pick this year being CeeDee Lamb, I think they're going to throw the ball a lot this year. You add Lamb, who has number 1 wide receiver talent, and you add him to Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, and I just think they're going to be airing the ball out a lot this year. So, do I think Zeke will get his touches? Yes, I still have him at 6. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see him end up as a top 3 back by the end of the season, but I just think his ceiling is now a little bit limited. I would not draft him with a top 5 draft pick. I think Kamara is a much safer pick. Alvin Kamara of the Saints, because other than Mike Thomas, Kamara is the offense for New Orleans. And I think Derrick Henry, for as good as Ryan Tannehill looked last year at the end of the year in the playoffs, he's still Ryan Tannehill. He had games in that stretch where he threw for 70 yards. Henry will run the ball. So I would take either of them before I took Kamara. That's just personal preference. If you want to take Kamara at number 4, if you want to take Ezekiel Elliott at number 4 overall, I am not going to slam you one bit. That is just completely personal preference. After that, at number 7, I have Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers. I think he really took a step up last year. I think they will continue to use him as they try to rely on Aaron Rodgers' arm a little bit less. As they try and save his arm for when they actually need it and for later in the year. Austin Eckler is my number 8 from the Chargers. Really over the past couple of years when Melvin Gordon was either hurt or holding out, Eckler showed he can be a number 1. He can be a true RB1. He can do it all. He can run it. He can catch the ball out of the backfield too. He's explosive. He can get you that big playability. And with a young quarterback, rookie quarterback, unless they go with Tyrod Taylor, but even then, I think they will lean on the run. So I would definitely go there. Most number 9s that I've seen have been Nick Chubb, and Nick Chubb is a beast. He is a great running back. I feel he is a true number 1. However, Kareem Hunt has to be taken into account. I don't know what the carry share is going to be. Is it going to be 60-40 Chubb? Is it going to be 70-30 Chubb? Is it going to be 50-50? Plus, in that offense in Cleveland, there's going to be a lot of mouths to feed because you got Odell, you have Jarvis Landry, you have Austin Hooper and David Njoku. Even though Njoku came out and said he wanted to be traded, who knows if they trade him? So there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. And again, when you're dealing with first round draft picks in fantasy football, you want as high of a ceiling as possible. This is the guy that should hopefully be scoring you enough points every week to give you an advantage over the team you're playing. I don't know if Nick Chubb is going to be that guy this year. Things can happen. Hunt could get hurt. They could trade him. Another videotape could pop up and he could be suspended. Who knows? So if that happens before you draft and anything like that happens, then obviously I would probably put Chubb higher. I would probably put him in the top 5 or 6 if I knew he was going to be getting 80 to 90% of the touches. He's that good. I had him on a couple of teams 2 years ago in his rookie year, and he literally almost single-handedly won me a league. So I'm very high on him. Again, it's all about ceiling. I put Joe Mixon of Cincinnati ahead of him. I feel he is very underrated. He's very overlooked. A lot of guys get a lot more hype and press, and the kid is just solid. I think he's going to be a top 8 running back this year. So I definitely see good things. So I am trying to draft him as much as possible in leagues I'm drafting. Then at number 11, I have Josh Jacobs of the Raiders. I think he is crucial to that offense, to David Carr, to taking some of the pressure off him, to taking some of the heat off him. He had a little bit of an injury issue last year where he missed a couple of games, but other than that, he was solid all year. So he's definitely a guy I look at to possibly be a top 10 overall running back this year. Kenyon Drake in Arizona, when they got him last year, he exploded. He just took the ball and ran with it, pun intended. So I would definitely look for him to have another strong season, although in that offense, again, ceiling is an issue. Kyler Murray can run the ball on his own, plus there's, they have 87 wide receivers in that offense, so who knows what they're going to be doing from week to week. So, again, your mileage may vary. I could see you drafting Kenyon Drake as high as number 9. I could see him falling to 15 or 16. So, it really just depends on what you personally feel on him. He's going to get you some points. It's just, does he have the upside to be a really high pick? So, those are the RB1s. Now, there are guys who can be RB1s, but those, I think, are the 12 pretty much surefire RB1s. That, honestly, and like I said, in my mind, that should be the first round of the draft. I don't care if you can draft DeAndre Hopkins. I don't care if you can draft Mike Thomas. To me, if you don't take a running back with your first pick, you're not giving yourself the best chance to win. And I truly feel if you don't take a running back with your first 3 picks, you're not giving yourself the best chance to win. The next group of guys is kind of jumbled up a little bit. For your high-end RB2s, names like Leonard Fournette out of Jacksonville, who's playing for a contract this year. He had some injury issues a couple of years ago, was pretty healthy last year, performed decently. I think now, I think Gardner Minshew has established himself as a little bit of a decent quarterback. I think he can be kind of a mid-round quarterback number 2. So I think in that offense, I think he's going to get a lot of touches, Fournette. So I really like him. Chris Carson, can he stay healthy? And is Pete Carroll going to commit to him? Those are the 2 big questions. You have Rashad Penny in that offense. You have the rumors that Marshawn Lynch is going to come back again. So, again, he's a guy I could see you drafting him as high as 13, 14. He's a guy I can see falling into the 20s. So it's all based on your feel and your opinion on what you're seeing. If you're a league that doesn't draft until like the end of the preseason, take a look, see how they're using him, and make your own judgment there. The first rookie on the list, Clyde Edwards-Helaire of Kansas City. Now, if that isn't an offense to get drafted by, they just signed Patty Mahomes to the huge deal, but you also have Tyreek Hill, you got Travis Kelce, you got Mecole Hardman, you got Sammy Watkins, you still have Damian Williams. And, all reports out of Kansas City is they are not just going to hand CEH the ball immediately and give him a bell cow workload. Damian Williams is still there. Damian Williams pretty much carried them to a Super Bowl last year. So I think he has to be considered for a workload. I really view that pairing as kind of like I do with Cleveland with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Am I going to waste a high-end second-round fantasy football pick on someone who at the beginning of the year might only be getting 30 to 40% of the touches? I don't think I can. So, again, your mileage may vary. He might get enough, if he only gets 15 touches a game, he might still score you in a PPR league, whether it's half point or full point. He might still score you 15 to 18 points because all he needs is one play. And he's got that breakout big play ability. He catches a swing pass and takes it 60 yards for the score. That's 13, 14 points right there, depending on your league setup. So, who knows? But you can't depend on that every single week. Me, in that level, I'm taking a guy like Melvin Gordon in Denver. Yes, you got other people in that offense. Yes, you got Royce Freeman. Yes. But, Melvin Gordon has proven he's a bell cow back. I'm taking the safer pick there. Where I'm looking for, a lottery ticket is in the 7th or 8th round. After we've established our teams, now I'm looking for a guy that has fallen, a guy that people forgot about. I'm looking to draft. If I'm going to draft a running back from Kansas City, I'm going to wait till the 7th or 8th round and see if Damian Williams is still around. That's who I'm going to take. I'm not wasting a second-round pick on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Not this year. Not unless you're a keeper league or not unless you're a dynasty league. Well, if you're a dynasty league, you already have your teams established and you're just drafting rookies, in which case Clyde Edwards-Helaire should be one of the first players off the board. If I'm a keeper league, yeah, maybe I'm going to draft him a little bit earlier than I would because after this year, who knows? They get rid of Damian Williams. Now he's the man and you can keep him. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. But in a basic redraft league, I'm probably not taking him in the second. Let someone else take that chance. But yeah, I'm taking a Melvin Gordon there. I'm taking a Devin Singletary of Buffalo. I'm taking James Conner out of Pittsburgh. Those are the guys I'm taking in that spot. Le'Veon Bell even. I think the Jets, as obviously I'm a Jet fan, I think the Jets did a lot to improve their offensive line this year. And they didn't do a lot to improve the wide receiver core. They drafted Denzel Mims. They got Brashad Perriman. But they didn't do a lot to really give Sam Darnold a lot of targets to throw at. So I really think they're going to rely on Le'Veon Bell this year. I think he's going to get 20, 25 touches a game. If that's the case, he could put up RB1 numbers. And you could get him probably... there's going to be people who take wide receivers and quarterbacks and tight ends in the first 2 or 3 rounds. Le'Veon Bell might be there in the 3rd round. And if Le'Veon Bell's there in the 3rd round, if you pick him, he can give you first-round back production. That's huge value. So he's a guy, if he's on the board in the 3rd round, you need to be drafting him. That could be a steal. Because he could be an RB1 overall at the end of the year as far as production goes. And that's not just the homerism talking. I've always liked Le'Veon Bell. Another guy like that is David Johnson out of Houston. Don't know why he fell out of favor in Arizona. A couple of years ago, he was the number 1 player in fantasy football. He broke his wrist, and all of a sudden, they just lost faith in him. And that was the injury that he had. It was a broken wrist. He didn't blow out his knee. He didn't have high ankle sprains. He didn't tear quads. It was nothing to do with his legs. So you put him now in Houston. That's a pretty high-powered offense, even though they got rid of DeAndre Hopkins. They still got Will Fuller. They got Brandon Cooks. Deshaun Watson can still throw the ball all over the place. David Johnson's a great ball catcher out of the backfield. I really see him with high-end RB2 production this year. So again, with him being ranked in most rankings that I've seen in the 20s, he could be there in your late third round, early fourth rounds of drafts. That's huge value. You need to be going after him. After that, I think a name that hardly anyone, I mean, guys I listen to are talking about him, but I have not seen the love in like basic drafts and stuff like that I've done, is Raheem Mostert out of San Francisco. This guy is ready to explode. Um, he's a sleeper. He's a deep sleeper for me this year. I'm looking to draft him in most of the drafts that I'm participating in, so he is definitely a guy you should be targeting. Um, You'll notice I did not talk about Todd Gurley out of Atlanta, and that's for a really, really good reason. I would not draft him. I wouldn't draft him if you paid my entry fee into the league. Um, could he be great? Sure. Could his leg fall off in the first preseason game and he's never heard from again? That's a high possibility as well. And that is not a chance I'm taking. If I lose my league because I didn't take Todd Gurley and instead I took a Raheem Mostert or I took a Devin Singletary or I took a David Johnson, then I'm just going to tip my cap to the guy who took Todd Gurley and got production out of him, and I'm going to say, hey, good for you. That's not the hill I'm going to die on. There's no way. You know, same thing with a guy like Devonta Freeman. I mean, he hasn't signed anywhere yet, I don't think, but if he does, I am avoiding him like the plague. This is not the, all-time fantasy draft league. Devonta Freeman was premium. He was elite at one point. Not anymore. Running backs do not have a very long shelf life, and once they start to go, it goes quickly. Mark Ingram, God, I've always liked him. My wife is a Saints fan, so I've watched Ingram since he came into the league, and he's so good. But for some reason, he keeps getting on teams where he's not the lead guy. When he was with the Saints, he had to split with Kamara. Now he's got to share with, the quarterback, Lamar Jackson. They got two other They just drafted a running back, who's supposed to be in the mix for touches. So, again, it's all about ceiling. It's all about high-end ability. And I just, again, if he's available in the 5th or 6th round of your draft and no one's taken him yet and he's on the board, you could do a lot worse than Mark Ingram. So, again, I think value has a lot to do with who you're taking, where you're taking him. I'm not drafting Mark Ingram in the 3rd round. In the 5th or 6th round, I'd click on him probably very, very quickly. So, depending on who else was out there. Now you're looking at a couple of rookies up next. You're looking at DeAndre Swift in Detroit. And you're looking at Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis. For my money, I prefer Jonathan Taylor. I had him as the rookie running backs that were out there. I actually had him ranked 2 behind Edwards-Helaire. I had him ranked ahead of DeAndre Swift. Plus, with DeAndre Swift, you have a coach in Detroit in Matt Patricia who, he comes from that Belichick mode. And Belichick, he's a guy with running backs, could be a different guy every week. And in Detroit, you still have Kerryon Johnson, who they just drafted a couple of years ago. So, again, it's that split. Again, it's that ceiling. Do I think in a year or two Swift is going to be the man in Detroit? Yes. Is it going to be this year? Am I using a high pick on him? No. I prefer Jonathan Taylor. I think that offense is going to be really good in Indianapolis. With them getting Phillip Rivers as quarterback, and we know Phillip Rivers loves to throw to his running backs because he used Eckler, he used Gordon when he was with the Chargers. both in the passing game. So he likes to dump it off if his options aren't there. So I would definitely. Indianapolis is a team I'm looking at for some sleepers. I think there's quite a few sleepers on that team this year, offense wise, and I'll get into that when I do some of the other positions as well. But Jonathan Taylor is someone that I've been targeting in around the fourth, fifth round, and I really, really like his potential. Kareem Hunt is now in this grouping here of the next couple of guys that are on the list. Again, could I see Kareem Hunt with RB1 numbers at the end of the year? Sure. Could I see him outside the top 30? Sure. It really just depends on his, what the touch percentage is. You know, that's going to be the type of thing where someone's going to look like a genius drafting either Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt because one of them's going to get hurt. They're both going to drop because they're in a timeshare, because everyone's expecting it to be 50-50, 60-40, 65-35. And someone's going to look like a genius and say, ha ha, I told you so, because one of them are going to get hurt eventually, and the other one's going to perform like an RB1, and someone's going to get insane value. Because you're going to be able to draft Kareem Hunt probably in, again, the fifth round, maybe sixth round, and you're going to get first-round production out of him, and you're going to look like a genius. And if he's there in the fifth or sixth round, I might be that genius, because I would certainly take him at that point, just because of the fact that he can give me RB1 production. So that's a guy I'm looking to draft, but at the right price. Again, it's all about price. Then you got Cam Akers, from the Rams. Rookie. They just drafted last year or the year before Darrell Henderson Jr., and he was supposed to be the heir apparent to Gurley. I don't know what this means, if they've given up on him, if that's going to be a timeshare between Henderson and Akers there. So, again, I think your mileage may vary there, but, I mean, at this point, we're getting to the bottom of the top 30, so if on the depth chart they're listing him as the starter, you kind of got to draft him, because you're not drafting backups yet. So there, that's where if I'm drafting toward the end of the preseason, I'm looking at the depth chart. I'm looking at, what their touch percentage was in the preseason, how they were used. Did they play with the first squad a lot? Did they play with the second squad or the third squad? And if he's playing with the first squad, if he's getting first squad touches, when they take the first squad out, if they go to someone else and they don't keep him in with the second squad, and it looks like he's the starter, then I have no problem drafting him accordingly. But he's just another guy that it's going to depend on price and value. James White out of New England. I like James White. He catches a ton of balls if you're in a PPR league. James White is a great running back to have. He is like the perfect flex player, because he's going to catch 8 balls a game. He's going to get at least 40 or 50 yards off those. And if he gets in the end zone, he's got 20 points. So he's a definite guy that in a PPR league you want. But again, it's New England, and the hashtag of Bill Belichick hates fantasy football is there for a reason. Because one week it could be him, the next week it could be Sony Michel, the next week it could be some guy that they bring in off the practice squad. He's done it before. So I don't depend on any New England running back ever. Now, again, if I'm drafting him as my flex, I really like that move. That's a really solid flex. But I'm not drafting him to start as an every week running back. Jordan Howard out of Miami. That's an interesting pick. I kind of like that. He's been really weird. He was decent with the Bears. Then he went to the Eagles, and they didn't really use him all that much because they drafted Miles Sanders. And now he's in Miami. And if Fitzpatrick is the quarterback, I think he'll get some touches, but I don't know how much they'll get. But when Tua takes over, they're going to let the running back set the tone for the offense, I think, to take some of the pressure off of Tua. So that's the type of guy that He may not win games for you early in the season, but that could be a guy that could win late in the season and win in playoffs for you. Because if Tua takes over in week 7 or 8, which I mean, most rookie quarterbacks, they'll take over after a bye week, and I'm not really sure when Miami's bye is this year. But if it's late in the season, Jordan Howard is a really, really intriguing pick. That's a guy that I really would try and see, like, if he's available in like the 7th or 8th round, I'm insta clicking him. On Johnson. Again, it just depends on the touches. Another really intriguing guy here, ranked in the early 30s in most of the things I've seen. Ronald Jones the second out of Tampa Bay. Yes, they got Brady. Yes, they got Gronk. Gronk hasn't put up elite numbers in a couple of years and did not play last year. Brady, for as great as he is, for as great as he's always been, it's a new offense, okay, with Bruce Arians, and he's in his 40s. So do I think they might run the ball a little bit? Yeah, I do. Now, they drafted a running back too. They drafted Keyshawn Vaughn. But how soon are they going to get him involved? And Jones has been there. He was there last year. He knows Arians' offense. So I think he's going to be a guy that gets the first look as the lead back. And if he takes it and, goes, he's a guy that they might run with. So that's definitely, a decent way to go. Darrell Henderson is next. He's a flip of a coin, whether it's going to be him or Akers. You really have to watch the Rams situation early in the season. And, I mean, Sean McVay likes to throw the ball a lot too. So they could wind up just being, an open field offense and just, throw the ball over the place to Woods and Kupp, and guys like that. So, who knows what they're going to do. So what I would do is I would see if they have a guy, if you see in the preseason, if either Woods or, Henderson or Akers, if they're being used a little bit more to catch balls out of the backfield, that might be the guy I go with, because that might be a little bit more prevalent in McVay's offense. Speaking of guys who catch the ball in the backfield, Tariq Cohen, who I think is just going to be used as a third down back out of the backfield. I really think they're going to give David Montgomery a chance this year. Don't think I talked about him a lot when I went through that group. But I think David Montgomery has a chance to take a step up this year and get into that mid-round, high-end RB2 discussion. So I'm not really a fan of Tariq Cohen. Is maybe a dart throw flex play. Later on, I think there's better value at that level. One of them being Darius Geis, who's had a really hard time staying on the field as far as injuries go, but has all the tools to be a pretty high-end running back. So, could this be the year? Who knows? But if he's around in the 7th or 8th round, that could be a good dart throw. Same thing with a guy like Phillip Lindsay, because if Melvin Gordon starts hitting the down end, Royce Freeman, those are guys in Denver that you could take. After that, you're talking about guys like Sony Michel, Marlon Mack, Matt Breida in Miami, who's in Miami now. They're all pretty much... Marlon Mack, out of all of them, would be the one I would want, because if Indianapolis decides to go with the veteran at first before they hand the keys over to Taylor, he's probably the guy I would want out of that group. J.K. Dobbins, who's the rookie in Baltimore, I really don't think he's going to see too much there. I think, honestly, he would be a great late-round keeper pick, because most keeper leagues, you give up the round that you drafted him in the following year. So if you could get him in, like, the 12th, 13th round, and then all of a sudden, they cut Ingram after this year, or if it's his last year of his contract, I think he has one more year after this one, but if it's the last year of his contract and they don't re-sign him, then Dobbins will be the guy next year, and that's great value. You could give up a 14th round pick and keep a guy who could be in RB2 the following year. Now you're getting into, like, all kinds of, like, backups. You're like Latavius Murray out of New Orleans. You're looking at Tevin Coleman in San Francisco. You're looking at Boston Scott in Philly. You're looking at Duke Johnson in Houston. These guys are all the same. They're going to get a few touches a game, but nothing that much. The only guy I really want to talk about is a great lottery ticket and or handcuff. If you are drafting Dalvin Cook this year, because of the situation with his contract, and also just because he's had a history of injuries, Alexander Mattison. If you draft Dalvin Cook, you have to take Mattison. Have to. If you're spending a top 3 pick overall in the draft on Dalvin Cook, and you do not take his backup, who is a quality running back. Last year, he put up very good numbers in the chances that he had and the touches that he had. He put up really good numbers. I do believe they were comparable to what Cook put up. You're crazy if you don't take him. Absolutely crazy. And if you see whoever has Cook didn't take him, you need to take him. Do you remember a couple of years ago when Le'Veon Bell, it was rumored he was going to hold out. It was rumored he was going to hold out. Well, how smart did the people who took James Conner that year look? You want to be that person. I have drafted Alexander Mattison as high as in the 8th round. Just because he could give me RB1, he could give me a first-round production. And I'm taking him in the 8th round. So if you are in a redraft league, if you are playing in a best ball league, if you're playing in an eliminator type league or anything like that, you need to have Alexander Mattison. A, if you took Dalvin Cook. And B, I don't care if you didn't take Dalvin Cook. Take him. Because worst comes to worst, now Cook holds out, you can trade Mattison to the guy who had Cook pretty much for whatever you want. You could just ask for the world. And he almost has to give it to you because he just wasted a top 3 pick on a guy who's maybe not going to play. So that is pretty much it as far as running backs go. I mean, I'm not going to get into the Tony Pollards and Malcolm Browns and Justin Jacksons. Those are all like second, third string running backs, and those definitely, they're not even really worth talking about unless someone gets hurt. And if they are, they'll be on waivers and you can go pick them up. So that's pretty much it for the running backs. I will be back probably tomorrow because I got nothing else better to do. I'm still furloughed. Waiting for that call from Disney and say, hey, the restaurant's open and you can come back to work. So I'm probably going to do wide receivers tomorrow. I may cover wide receivers over 2 days just because there's just so many wide receivers. I may do either that or I'm just going to gloss over the studs. Draft Michael Thomas first. Draft DeAndre Hopkins first. Hello. If you don't know that, don't play fantasy football. So I might just gloss over some of the studs and get into some of the deeper plays and some of the sleepers and some of the guys that I like and I'm really looking to draft. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys later.